Welcome, creatures of the night. My name is Zatrix, and this is the first build which I have published for ESO. It's a really niche build which I do enjoy to play a lot and really is viable in any game content, so I decided to share it with the community. The premise of it is that it's a vampire stab and a Nightblade which can do solo, group, and trial content while doing around 84 to 87k parsing damage and a 21 million health dummy. That number is really acceptable, and I think it's a really good build for people who are looking for an off-meta build which is fun, hits like a truck, and most importantly, not a burden to your group. So, to get started, the race and Mundus stone. First of all, I'm one of those people who say that race really isn't that of an important factor. What will matter most are your items, the quality of them, your skills, and your rotations. I myself am using a Khajiit only because I like to play as them, nothing more, nothing less. But if I were to decide on a race objectively, I'd go with a Dunmer, aka a Dark Elf. The two biggest reasons are that the Dark Elf race is currently kinda meta, and additionally, it gives fire resistance which can really help a vampire. Although, I have managed to solo Null Cauldron on this character, so it's not that big of an issue. As for the Mundus stone, I'd go with a Thief. I have tried to use a Shadow, but in general, it's better to have more crits, which are a bit weaker, than to have less crits, which are a bit stronger.
Just to notify, I did try pairing Kinrus with Arms of Reliquin, and I really didn't get that much of a DPS increase and decided that the hassle about having it up isn't really worth it. Besides, this build is more beginner friendly this way. So I've divided the gear into 4 different categories. The first one is basically when you have a single enemy, the fight lasts longer than a minute, and you have a healer. You want to use Reliquin here. Basically, when you light and heavy attack, you apply a stack of harmful winds to your target for 5 seconds. Harmful winds deal 300 physical damage per stack every second. This effect can stack once every half second up to 10 times. Basically, 3,000 physical damage a second. Maximum stamina and divines on all. You're also going to use Stormfist, 1 medium, 1 light, divines, maximum stamina. Basically, what this does is really nice physical and shock damage. You could use Selene, but this isn't AoE. Selene is single target. Next is Pillar of Nirn. Basically, it does bleed damage and then more bleed damage. For the weapons, go Double Dagger, Nirnhorned Poison, and Charged Flame. Also, Jewelry, Pillar of Nirn, Bloodthirsty, weapon damage. As for the back bar weapon, we are going to use the Maelstrom Perfected Greatsword. You do not want the Maul, nor you need a perfected version, because it gives you only offensive penetration. We're mostly going to use Bleed from this Greatsword, and Bleed ignores penetration either way. Maybe for Twisting Path and for the initial strike of Stampede, but you don't really need it if you can't. Next off is basically for soloing. That's Deadly Strike, which basically gives you a 15% damage increase for all damage over time abilities. Next up is Pillar of Nirn Helmet or Shoulder. If you're using a Pillar of Nirn Helmet, use a Slimecraw Shoulder or vice versa. Slimecraw is the only monster set, or rather only one piece of a set which gives you so high critical chance, and you should use it. Of course, divines. Weapons are the same. Also, Pale Order. Next is Deadly Jack, Stormfist, and Pillar of Nirn. Basically just a mishmash to kill trash. And the final one is Reliquin, Pillar of Nirn, and Pale Order. This is basically for soloing a single target enemy where the fight isn't too short, I would guess, but honestly, if it's a single target and you're going to use Pale Order, you probably wouldn't use this, as the fights would last maybe 30 seconds max, even with Deadly. So for our skills we have the following. Rendering Slashes. Basically, bleed damage and more bleed damage. I would not recommend using the other morph because it doesn't really heal that much, and if you use Pale Order, this will probably out-heal it. Now, our main spammable would be Silver Shards. It's the first skill you can get from the Fighters Guild, which is ironic, and I wanted to use it. Also, it has a range of 28 meters, so it gives us a bit of a distance, and it technically is kind of AoE because it hits enemies who are within a 5-meter radius from the initial one. It costs a bit more and does a bit less damage than surprise attack, but I really like to use it. Also, surprise attack is viable, but I like silver shards more. Whirling Blades, that's our spinny AoE execute skill. I really like using it. You could use Killer's Blade instead of it. It would probably out DPS it, but this is AoE. Deadly Cloak. So, it basically allows us to stand in stupid and deals physical damage, which is really nice. Now, if you are too squishy, what you could use is Mirage, which allows you to stand in stupid, and it also adds to your resistances, allowing you to stand in stupid more. Next is Blood Mist. Now, we are using Blood Mist to fit the vampire theme, but also, if you check out under the vampire skill line and check the Strike from Shadows, you will see that when you leave Mist form, your weapon and spell damage is increased by 300 for 6 seconds. We're using this in our rotation. Also, quick shout out, hashtag save the vamps. The vamps are nerfed and we have suffered enough. Please give us our old skills back or improve the current ones. Divine Stake you sauce. Incapacitating Strike is the first ultimate. Basically, it deals disease damage, and once you activate it, the enemy will get 20% more damage from you. Also, while it's slotted, your light and heavy attacks restore resources. For our second bar, we're firstly going to use Stampede. Stampede does some physical damage, but the real thing about it is that it creates a sunder under the enemy, which procs every second for 10 seconds, and also procs the Maelstrom Greatsword. So that's really good for bleed damage. We're going to use Carve, which deals bleed damage and then more bleed damage. And you need to constantly have Carve stacked up 3 times, otherwise it won't really do that much damage. Twisting Path is our actually strongest hitting ability. Over time, of course. Basically, you will create an AoE field which will deal 2.6k magic damage every second for 12 seconds. Leeching Strikes. Now we are a vampire. I myself am stage 4, so I will definitely have resource management issues. That's why I need to use Leeching Strikes. It's really nice. Relentless Focus. Basically, when you light attack weave, you will stack it up to 5 times. Once it's stacked 5 times, it will basically give you 300 weapon and spell damage. Also, if you reactivate it, it will deal around 16k disease damage and heal you for 33% of the damage dealt if you are within melee range, and we are within melee range. The final skill is Dawnbreaker. I'm only slotting this because if you check out under the Fighters Guild, you have Slayer and Banish the Wicked, which is really nice. Also, which I haven't mentioned, if you're using Silver Shards, this passive also affects these skills. Another viable option instead of Dawnbreaker would be Swarming Scion. Basically, it gives you all of your health back. I know that when I started out with this character and didn't really have all of the gear, this helped me a lot because it healed me, and I healed more because of the damage I deal when I didn't have Pale Order. Also, I can see enemies through walls. I kinda use this in PvP. So, for the actual rotation, you should go Cloak, Mist, and then immediately swap your bar so you can cancel the animation, like so. Then use Leeching Strikes and Relentless Focus. So to engage the combat, use Stampede, Carve, Path, Double Carve, Focus, swap R. If you have your ultimate, use Strike. If you don't, use Shards. Then Render, Double Shards, Cloak, Mist, change bar, Stampede, Carve, Path, use Leeching if you don't have it active or you have less than a second, Relentless Focus, and again Ultimate if you can, or not, silver. Render, double silver, etc. etc. At around 25%, rather than using these two, just use rolling blades. At around 15%, do not reactivate Relentless Focus, just keep that active so you can use it with rolling blades. At around 5%, just spam rolling blades. So basically, this is how the rotation goes for this build. Use effects on yourself first, and then attack it. So cloak. What? So basically, the combat should look like this. So this wasn't my proudest parse. I have a lot of issues with parsing while OBS is running, but as you can see, I just parsed an 85k with a couple of errors on my side. So to look at my previous parses, basically this is my highest Reliquant parse, which was 87.3k. Arms of Reliquant was doing most damage, followed by Twisting Path and light attacks. Carve as well, as you can see I was using Reliquant. And my other best parse when using Deadly, but without the Pale Order ring, Twisting Path was doing most of my damage, followed by light attacks, Deadly Cloak and Carve. I was doing 84k parsing damage. On both parses I am around champion point 700, so I really can't say for certain which numbers will I have when I get to a higher champion point level. Ergo, unlocking those required champion points. So for the champion points, I would use Precision, Tireless Disciple, everything under Extended Might except for Weapons Expert, Biting Aura, Master at Arms, Thaumaturge, and Deadly Aim. Under Fitness, I would use Rejuvenation, Boundless Vitality, Fortified is a good idea, Tumbling, only the first one in Survivor's Respite, Hero's Vigor, Blood Renewal. You could use Strategic Reserve if you are not stage 4 to increase your health recovery, Sprinter, and I am using Hasty. And now for the real endgame, the outfit. So I'm only using 2 colors. I'm using Julianus White and Boss Butcher Brown. For my pauldrons and chests, I'm using Legion Zero. For my gauntlets and sabatons, I'm using Deadlands Gladiator, a Jamora belt, and Activian Guard. Also, I'm using Dark Brotherhood swords. So a Dark Brotherhood Greatsword and Dark Brotherhood swords. Thanks for watching, and I hope I see what you all feel about this build in the comments. A huge shout out to Necropolis Gaming for creating the original vampire build on which I've based this one.